Are there any educators in the house? It is an honor to be in your presence. You know, my whole life, educators like you have invested in me, have poured into me, have believed in me. And because of them, I'm before you. I could not do this without your colleagues and peers who have said that my life would be better than it started if I believed in education. And when I struggled as a student, it was teachers and educators who struggled with me to help me get over the finish line. And I believe that it's teachers and educators who are going to help us get over the finish line in this election. Every day, someone will say to me that we should only focus on the kids who show promise and potential. Like you, I reject that notion because all of our kids have promise and potential. It is incumbent on us, the adults in their lives, to help them to find their potential, to shape it, to grow it. And education is not about competition. It is a fundamental promise that we give to every single student in this state and this nation. It is a pillar upon which this nation has been built, the promise of getting a public education. We will not allow a few billionaires who hide behind the curtain to privatize public education, not in California. A lot of people have said to me, wow, they're really coming after you, Tony. They said, wow, they've already spent $28 million against your campaign. I say the same things to them every day. My opponent is supported by billionaires. I'm supported by teachers, and I'll take that every day. See, the billionaires who are trying to control education for their own gain are not willing to step out into the light the way you have. They're not willing to step out into their communities to talk about how we can really close the achievement gap and help every single student. But you all are. You're champions for our kids every single day. And because of that, because you are champions for public education, you represent a threat to those same billionaires. And what their real message is, they don't want to pay their employees a decent wage. They don't think that everyone deserves a chance to live the American dream. And they don't want to give anybody the right to be organized against billionaires who think that we shouldn't have the right to organize to protect you in your workplace. And they're wrong. They couldn't be more wrong, because education has never been about competition. It's always been about giving every young person a chance. That's why I'm so proud that the governor signed the bill that I co-authored with Assemblymember McCarty that bans for-profit charter schools in the state of California. If you say those two words, public and education, there's no room for profit. There's no room for anyone to profit off of the backs of our kids. There are schools in this state that have cheated the state, taken public funds. They've lied about their attendance to get more revenue. They've earned $54 million. And when you look at the graduation rate, 36%. That's unacceptable. Our kids are not for sale, and public education is not for sale. Today we send a powerful message to the likes of Donald Trump and Secretary DeVos, who have said that we should, I love how that happens right on cue. They have said that we should strip away the dollars for public education and give it to those who want to have a voucher program. No. Secretary DeVos has said that she will not stand up for our transgender students. She doesn't think it's the job of a superintendent to do that. Well, I think differently, which is why I put a bill on the governor's desk to provide more support for our LGBTQ kids in California. Because our students experience the highest rates of bullying and depression and suicide, it is our job to support our kids. And among the many jobs of Superintendent of Public Instruction is standing up against and standing up to Trump and DeVos to say, not in our state. We support all of our kids to get a great education. And while Secretary DeVos has proposed to close the programs that deal with dual language learners and bilingual education, we say no. And the governor, you can say that, hell no. And the governor just signed our bill that gives more money for dual language immersion programs in the state of California. California will lead the way. You heard Eric say that this is the most expensive race for a state superintendent in the country. This race is more important, has been more expensive than some Senate races in the country. $45 million have been spent. That money would have been better spent going to close the achievement gap in our state. So my message to the billionaires is, if you really want to help public education, go ahead and help public education. Education saved my life. I was a student who needed help. My family came from very humble beginnings. My mom was a teacher. She emigrated here from Panama to teach in our schools. My Panamanian family just expanded. She taught in San Jose. My dad, he emigrated all the way from Detroit, Michigan. He was a soldier. My dad served in Vietnam. I didn't see my dad for 30 years until I found him on the internet. He was living in California. He talked about the trauma that he experienced as a soldier that kept him away from our family. My mom raised 4 kids by herself, and she was very, very sick. As some of you know, my mom had cancer, and when I was 6 years old, my mom lost her battle to cancer. And so her 4 children all got split up. I saw 2 of them maybe once in a 10-year period. The 2 youngest, I was 6, my brother was 5, we were sent to live in Philadelphia with a cousin who we'd never met until we showed up on her doorstep. Also an immigrant from Panama. She took us in and raised us as her sons, and she ensured that we got a great public education. And she saved our lives. She saved our lives. We struggled. I was a student on the free lunch program. I told you the story about how I had an orange ticket to make me stand out, because Donald Trump thinks that kids are trying to get a free lunch. And I say, what's wrong with that? They're hungry. Let's give them a free lunch. Don't cut the free lunch program. Kids can't learn when they're hungry. All my friends made fun of me for eating the free lunch. I didn't understand it. They teased me. I became an adult, and I realized everybody in my school was on the free lunch program. I didn't understand it.
They just didn't have a ticket.
They just didn't show the ticket. When I went to the grocery store to buy anything, I went with food stamp coupons. A green coupon and a blue coupon and brown. And then I got teased. I was, and I realized everyone in my neighborhood was on food stamps or public assistance. You all have heard me say this. I ate so much government cheese. I thought USDA was a brand name. It was.
But it was good cheese.
But it was good cheese. If you could get through that box, you had to cut through that plastic and get through that box. You make yourself a really good grilled cheese sandwich. You could. We didn't go hungry. These programs helped my family to get out of poverty, and education was really a critical component to all of that. And I think about what my life could have been and how easy I could have fallen through the cracks. And instead of falling through the cracks, I didn't end up in California State Prison. I ended up in the California State Assembly. Let's give that. I want to make that my gift to the 6 million kids in the great state of California, to give them the same thing. We should educate and not incarcerate. We spend $6 billion on prisons in this state. We spend so little on preschool. And I'm going to work with our next governor to create a universal preschool program in the state of California. I'm going to sponsor legislation to do what I introduced this year, because I voted to close private prisons in our state. The governor vetoed that bill. I'm going to sponsor that legislation again including the bill that I introduced that says as long as they're here, we should tax private prisons, and the proceeds go to preschool and after-school programs to help our kids. We have a moral authority to make sure that every young person gets a great education. We know that the achievement gap starts before kindergarten. We've provided $1 billion in early education in these last 4 years, but we have to do more. We have to make sure that young people learn and that their parents know to talk, read, and sing to their children from the moment that they are born. We have to provide support to our families who struggle, for our English learners. We have to provide support for our high school kids so they can have programs like the Freedom School, which is an Afrocentric literacy intervention program that helps students improve their reading by 1 whole grade in less than 6 weeks. And so the first thing I'll do is launch a statewide literacy campaign so all our kids learn to read by 3rd grade. You see, my opponent in this race has consistently talked about 50% of the kids in our state can't read. And if that's true, we have to address that. But my opponent never says what he's going to do to help our kids read. What he's done is he's denigrated the children who are in districts that are struggling, including the district that I served as a school board member at. He has said that he wants to serve African American and Latino and Asian and low-income kids, but he has spoken poorly of the district that is serving them. Yes. I love the district I served at. I made the decision after serving on the city council that I wanted to go help kids. They told me, they said, don't go. You're going to make everybody mad. The budget's going to be bad, and it was. But I understood that we had the opportunity to serve our kids, and I went knowingly to a district that had been in state control for 20 years. And guess what? We paid down the debt and got it out of state control 5 years early. I went to a district knowingly that had one of the highest rates of poverty anywhere in the region. I knew that going there. But I'm so proud of our students who we were able to help reduce their suspensions by more than 27% in 1 year, so our kids can learn. We increased our graduation rates. We increased our test scores. And we rebuilt almost every single school in our district. I'm sure there are things that have to be addressed, but as I've challenged my opponent, Mr. Tuck, in your attempts to denigrate me, you're speaking poorly of students who are fighting for a great education, and for the educators who fight for them, and for their parents who fight for them. Instead of denigrating them and saying you want to serve them, get off the sidelines and come up with a plan to help them. Mr. Tuck has distorted my record at every turn. He has said in debates things that now his supporters through independent expenditure committees have taken his narrative. I challenged him in our debates to say, stop distorting my record. Stop denigrating the same children that you say you want to serve. Because words matter. Words matter. And when kids hear what we say, they listen to what we say. And you can't say you want to serve black and brown kids and then talk bad about those same kids. And that's what Mr. Tuck has done. And he said that Barack Obama reprimanded me, which is a flat-out lie. It's just a flat-out lie. The Department of Education sent a letter to my district a year after I left the district, and Mr. Tuck and his supporters have said that I was sued by all of these groups, and they talked up something about some school that I knew nothing about, I guess that needed some help, and that the ACLU had sued me. And the ACLU has put out a statement this week telling the Tuck campaign to stop saying what you're saying, because they said, we are not endorsing your campaign. What he forgot to say is that the ACLU put out a report card 2 weeks ago for legislators. Tony Thurmond earned a score that was 100%. I don't know what rating scale you use, but where I come from, 100% is the highest that you can get. In the primary, Mr. Tuck and his supporters spent $9 million against our campaign. As of today, they spent nearly $28 million in the general election. They will exceed $30 million against our campaign. They are trying to buy this seat. My message has been the same to Mr. Tuck, and it continues to be the same. Campaign on the issues, on your record, and what you hope to do for the children of our state. We do not send the message to our children about cheating, because we don't win by cheating. And I am going to continue campaigning on my record, on my integrity, and on my desire to serve 6 million students in this state. I spent the morning walking precincts in the Inland Empire. Because when they go low, we walk precincts. There's never been a campaign like the one that you have created. Your calls, your texts, your posts, your tweets are powerful. And the message that they send is that the will of the people will overcome any amount of money that's spent against truth and decency and doing the right thing for our kids. Thank you for what you do. Thank you. Left in the campaign.
Like 2 weeks, I think.
For SPI! SPI! For SPI! For SPI!
In the home stretch.
I am so honored to be endorsed by the California Teachers Association. Thank you for your support. We have built an incredible coalition that involves every group you can imagine, CTA and CFT and CSCA and CFA and SEIU and teachers, nurses, and firefighters and Equality California and Planned Parenthood and the Sierra Club, and with 89% the California Democratic Party's endorsement. We are in the final stretches of this campaign. This is the most important time. Most voters do not know what this office is about. Most voters don't know who is running. Every single call, text, tweet that you make makes a difference in the life of public education in this state and in the nation. Because so goes California, so goes the nation. And right now we're 46 in per pupil spending, even though California is the 5th wealthiest economy in the world. My pledge to you is that as superintendent, we'll make California schools #1. Let's do it together. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.